Hey guys, what's up? I am here with a review, quick second, of a shot on video, low budget anthology exploitation splatter film from 1989. And tonight's movie is The Basement. I own this on the Basement set that has, 3 discs, and it has Video Violence 1 and 2, as well as Captives and Cannibal Campout, and The Basement, of course, which the whole set is based on. But yeah, The Basement is an anthology horror film about these 4 guys, these 4 strangers who are basically like told to go to this basement of an abandoned home, and when they get there, they meet this they meet this like entity known as the Sentinel, and the Sentinel tells them like 3 stories and basically shows them with these 4 segments that are in the film, like things that they have yet to done, like horrible things that they're going to end up doing in their lifetime, and why these things are gonna like damn them for all eternity. Now this sounds like a very, very interesting movie. I mean, it's an anthology film, so I'm at least hoping I'm at least hoping that it'll be decent. It'll at least be entertaining and very, very gory and cheesy. But the only way I'm gonna find out is if I go ahead and sit down and watch the movie. So, without further ado, I'm gonna kick back and watch The Basement. So the movie opens with credits that don't look like they were made in MS Paint. Well, not MS Paint, but Windows Movie Maker. So that is a big plus right away. So during the credits, it's just like a continuous shot of a basement door, and then these 4 people show up in the basement of this abandoned house. And this basement must be the biggest basement in the world, because in this film they make it out to be like it is absolutely massive. They meet the Sentinel, who basically he makes them confess to crimes even though they haven't happened yet, and they didn't know that they were going to commit these crimes until just now. So he makes the woman confess first, and the woman, the first segment is about her, and the first segment is called Swimming Pool. Swimming Pool is about how she is sitting at a pool reading a Stephen King book and writing in it about how she wants to kill her husband. And her husband comes along by the pool and steps on a piece of shit that's on the concrete that doesn't look like shit at all. It literally looks like some kind of greenish brown slime and nothing like shit at all. So, yeah. And basically she pushes her husband into the pool and kills him, and it turns out that there's some kind of like demon or monster in the water that eats him, and then she eventually makes a list of people she wants to kill, and a bunch of crazy shit happens. So yeah, and I'd probably give this segment a 4 out of 5. It was pretty entertaining. Although the main character was a bitch, I still kind of liked her. We have the second segment now, and this one is about a bitter man who hates Halloween and he hates children. So these classic monsters, and when I say classic monsters, I mean a mummy, a vampire, and a witch show up at his house and to exact revenge on him for not liking Halloween and being bitter because his wife died, and him and his wife used to enjoy celebrating Halloween. This segment is called Trick or Treat, and honestly, it was probably the most lackluster segment out of the entire movie. which is really sad because this is one of the segments I was really looking forward to checking out when I went into this thing, and it was not as good as I would have, as I expected it to be. So it gets a 3 out of 5. It's all right. Again, it's not too great, but I mean, I liked what they did. They could have done more, honestly, though. Okay. And next, and let me just read the summary of this segment. It's called Zombie Movie. The cocaine, hookers, and reanimated corpses wreak havoc on the set of an independent film. Now, this sounds like an absolutely amazing segment, and this is the other segment in the film that I thought was going to be that I thought was going to absolutely blow me away and just be amazing. It didn't blow me away, but I still thought it was really, really entertaining. And it had some pretty good gore and makeup effects, and I mean, I still really liked it for what it was, and I'd probably have to give it a 4 out of 5. Finally, we have the fourth and final segment, which is called Home Sweet Home, and this one is about a guy who decides to buy a house, and he decides to buy this house that this guy murdered a bunch of people and killed himself in, because why not? Because the guy wants to be a writer, I guess. So, yeah, he moves in, and his friend stays the night, and his friend ends up getting killed by some kind of monster that's in the house. And you kind of slowly find out what's going on in the house. And honestly, this was the best segment in the film. And again, this is like the first and fourth segment were the two segments that I thought weren't going to be that good, and it turned out that those two were like two of the better segments in the film, which is a bit surprising to me, honestly. So it's a low-budget horror film. It was shot on 8mm in the 80s, and the film was lost. It did not. It was shot and then it just disappeared. It wasn't released on VHS, and it wasn't released on VHS or DVD until Camp Motion Pictures picked this thing up in like 2010. So, yeah. So obviously the acting isn't that great, the writing isn't that great, but it's still very entertaining in a kind of so bad it's good way. The camera work is alright. The lighting is okay except for shots at night or in a dark house, and then it gets kind of dark, like you can still see what's going on, but you have to squint a little bit to be able to see what's going on in the scene. The sound mix is actually pretty bad in this movie, but I honestly think that makes the film a lot more entertaining, because it seems like they had to like redub it instead of just like looping in the dialogue again. I guess they dubbed over it, and the dubbing is so obvious. Like it's not like Things from 1989 level of obvious, but it is still pretty damn obvious. So you know, the voices don't match the mouths very well, and again, it's just another thing that I honestly really thought added a more cheesy fun to the movie. The effects are pretty good, along with the makeup. The makeup and effects are really good for the low budget. A little bit cheesy at times, but still very entertaining and very good for the budget. The pacing is pretty decent. And the puppetry is not that great, but again, I still absolutely loved it. And the movie actually does a good job of building a nice bit of atmosphere at times, mostly during the final segment. The final segment I actually got creeped out a little bit with it being in a very kind of like old, dark house, and the music is nice and atmospheric. I mean, like the two creepiest segments were probably the second segment, which was easily the worst in the movie, although I will still say I still liked it, and the fourth segment. Those were probably the two creepiest segments that made my skin crawl a little bit. So, on the gore meter from 1 to 10, 1 being something like Nosferatu and 10 being something like Brain Dead, The Basement as a whole is probably about a 5. It's about average, honestly. I mean, I went in expecting something a bit more gory, and I didn't get it, but I still got a pretty decent, you know, a pretty good, all around, like, low budget, kind of pseudo splatter anthology horror film. And I would definitely say it's still a good movie, even though it wasn't as gory as I wanted it to be. This movie is definitely far from the worst shot-on-video horror film I've ever seen, but it is not, and it is also not the worst anthology horror film I've ever seen, but it's still not that great. Although it does have a lot of fun, cheesy aspects. It's got some good gore and makeup effects, good acting, well, not good acting, but bad acting, and a decent amount of atmosphere. It's not as gory as I would have liked it to be, and the lighting in the darker scenes is pretty bad, and the two segments that I was really looking forward to were lacking, but all in all, I still really enjoyed it, and I could definitely give it a solid recommendation if you're looking for a really weird, like, anthology horror film, or if you're looking for a really lesser known, like, shot on video horror film. This is definitely one of them. I mean, yeah, it's not my favorite shot on video horror film. I still think that title is, like, tied between Olaf Ittenbach's Black Past and Gary Cohen's Video Violence. Speaking of video violence, it's on this set. I think I'm gonna go watch that now. I'd probably have to give this film a 4 out of 5. Or I should probably add all the things together and do the math. So, I gave it a 4, 3, 4, 5. So, that is 16. What's 16 divided by 4? It's time for me to pull out my phone and do math. So it'd basically be like 3.5, so I'm just going to go ahead and bump that up to a 4 because I still really enjoyed the movie. So 7, 8 out of 10, somewhere around there. It's really entertaining and definitely worth watching at least once. I might come back to it in a while, you know, when I feel like watching some prime, like, cheese. But in the meantime, guys, that's it for now. So anyway, guys, if you liked the video, like my channel, be sure to like this video, favorite it, whatever you want, and maybe subscribe perhaps. I would really appreciate that. And check the links in the description below. There are links to things like my Tumblr, Twitter, all that, Facebook. All that is in the description below.
Hey there, kids. Do you want to get cool stuff in the mail like this? Or this? Or even this? Well, then subscribe to Horror Block today. Have you ever wanted to do cool cosplays like this? Or even this? Well, now you can. Subscribe to Moonchild Cosplay on YouTube, and you can see all her tutorials on how to do cool stuff like this. Do you want to get cool horror and exploitation film t-shirts like this? Or this? Or this? Well, then go to RottenCotton.com to check out all of their premium t-shirts.